to start with, and you guys can stop me whenever you want in between or as we're going through things. I'm going to share our screen. We probably reviewed this a little bit, so I'm just going to go over so everybody knows. The key, you can install this software on multiple PCs, and then you share databases. You need to have the hardware, which we're defining as this item right here, hooked up in order for you guys to be able to take a scan on as many devices as you want. Okay, I'm launching the program. Can you guys see that on your screen? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, perfect. All right. So here, obviously, I've got my list of on this database of some of the patients. I'll just use me, for example, right now, but then I'll probably switch over to Steve Klein because he was really remarkable from when we first ran his scans to with Steve's permission, by the way. All right, so what I'd like to do first is just go through kind of just some housekeeping things so you know all the components that are available with the software integration. So when you hook up your hardware, which is the key plus the sensor clips, you should see this little green light go on down here, which just says that the hardware is now speaking to the software. Absent that green light, you won't be able to get a scan. And then next to that, you'll see this little guy that looks like a speaker. And there's a kind of annoying sonar sound when it's running. You can just turn that off that way. Or you can turn the speakers down on your PC. This is a PC-based program, but I run it on my Mac, and I just have installed Boot Camp, and I run it on the PC. You know, the Boot Camp turns the Mac into a PC. You just divide the brain. So it can work in both environments, but it doesn't work very well on parallels in the Mac environment, only on the Boot Camp. We are coming up with a Mac solution. And I am also writing this program in iOS, so eventually within the year, we should have it where it's Mac-based in case that's important to you. All right, so now if you click on any of the patient files and you right-click, it'll bring up this screen. Have you guys seen the screen yet?
No, I haven't seen it.
Okay. All right. So here you can add a patient, you can delete a patient that you've highlighted with the blue. You can import a patient file. So I'm going to show you, well, let's go to this guy right here, export. So I'm on Melody. You can see there's been 4 scans for Melody. And I'm going to export her file. So I've just done a scan on Melody. You designate a folder on somewhere on your desktop or somewhere in your system where you're going to send the file to. The program will automatically name the file, you know, as it's named from up here, and it's a .lz. Now I want to save it to this folder, so I open the folder, and now I make sure that it's here. You can see there's Jason's folder with his scans, and then I just add Melody to it. So now I'm moving that file into that folder. So if I go to the folder, the desktop folder, you'll see the Melody file right there. If I wanted to email, like if you guys do a scan and you want to have me read it or work with me, or even among your group, if you want to share these files so that you can learn and grow within your system, teach people how to actually read the scans and identify, you can just take this file, you can attach it to an email, and send it to whomever you want. Okay? As a function.
What format is that in? Does that have to be converted to something in order for them to be able to?
Well, no, it's in the .lz format. So you actually need the program on the receiving end in order for you to actually read the file. It doesn't convert it into like a Word document or a PDF or anything like that. It's a .lz. But now on the flip side, going back to Melody, if I got a file from Melody, let's say I did 2 scans on Melody at my home office, and I did 2 scans on Melody in the clinic. and I wanted to merge the 2 scans from home to the clinic file. Then I would export to and attach it to an email, either email it to myself or Dropbox it to myself, whatever is the most efficient way. And then I would hit the import button. I find out where that file is. So back to the desktop. You know, I can just find out wherever that file is located. Sorry. Okay, let's come out of this for a second. Right click, import. There, that's the one I was looking for. Then I would just look for the file, the .lz file that I want to import, click on it, and then hit open, and it merges the 2 files that I exported into the 2 files that I imported. Now, the key to that is that when you're initiating a new patient, you can either add a patient down here, or you can right-click on this file and add a patient up there. So the easiest one is this guy. You add a new patient here. Make sure that you name that patient with their with a unique name. If in the beginning, and I made this mistake, I would scan people, you know, in conferences, and someone come by, their name is Stephen. Another person came by, their name is Stephen. If I didn't put their last name in, and I tried to merge the Stephen files together, because the program doesn't differentiate, it's based on that nomenclature, it would merge Stephen 1 with Stephen 2. If I say Stephen Klein and Stephen Johnson, then it won't merge it because they're considered separate individuals. So it's very important that you put the full name, that you put their birth date. Of course, if it's a male, you would hit the blue. If it's a female, you turn it to red. The other information is, you know, it's certainly good for male, you know, for data collection. But the next important piece of information is the email. And the last piece is the weight, height, and activity levels are something you just fill in, and that's just for us to, for the clinician or the reader to get a feel for how that person overall physiology fits in the overall profile. So, for instance, you take a guy like Stephen Klein that's very athletic, and you know, or an athlete, pro athlete. Their readings might be outside the norm, but it's not outside the norm for them because they're not average. So the 2 exceptions to the database are basically adolescents, people that are under 17 years of age, and optimal health people, people that are extreme triathletes, you know, pro athletes, that kind of thing. Because they're going to have extremely high readings. It'll look like they're not normal because they're not normal. And children, it's not that they're not normal, but a child generally has an accelerated heart rate. So where the norms are created by the American Cardiac Association, they say the average resting heart rate should be between 60 and 90. A normal child might have a resting heart rate of 110. So they're going to read abnormal, but they're not abnormal because they're a child. Got it? I know you guys get it. Now you can go up here if you want to click on the little camera. It'll find the camera in your PC, and you can actually take a picture of the patient. So that might be important to you. All right, back to Melody. I'm right-clicking. Now, so you can delete, you can add, you can import, you can export. I do recommend that at least once a week, someone, for good housekeeping, backs up your entire database. If you go click on that, it gives you a numerical print that's unique. It's .lc. That's your entire database. At some point, you guys are going to have thousands of scans, and that database is going to become important, particularly when you're doing any kind of comparative interventions and comparative studies. So you're going to want to back that up and keep it on a thumb drive, as well as on the hard drive. Keep one off-site. I just do that, but I'm a backup freak. So anyway, it gives you a timestamp, and then same thing. You can now take that exported database and you can import it into it, so you can transfer a whole database to another PC just by backing it up and then importing it or restoring it onto the new environment. Okay. So now we're up to sending out reports. So you need to set up your email in your PC so that if you choose to email directly from the PC the report to the patient, you can. And so the email setup, I'm not a PC guy, but you need to basically put in your address server for your email box, Yahoo or Gmail, whatever you use, and then your login and your password, and then do a test. Okay, now if you click this button, this little checkbox here, it'll automatically send the report after a scan directly to the patient. Most of the doctors we work with do not have that checked because they would like to either manually deliver it or manually email it or manually print it out and add it to a consult, So you guys have to decide what works best for you and within your network, okay? Back to Melody. All right, so because I'm set up, if I just click print report, if that PC is hooked up to your printer, as mine is, I can print out a report as we're speaking. All right, and that'll be the report that includes every one of these pages. You can do a single or a comparative report, everything but the last overview, which is just a numerical value. You probably have seen some of these before, but it won't do that. Okay, back to Melody. So printing reports there. Sending a report by email, again, if I click send, it's going to send it to, it's on manual now, it'll send right to the email address that I've logged in for Melody. Of course, if you have set it up so the emails are coming to your practice, then, with each patient, then you can manage that way if you want. The sound button is the same thing as turning the sonar or the sound off here. You can do it that way. Checking for updates. I have you guys set up because you were early adapters so that every time we upgrade the system, you're going to automatically, when you log in, get a little window that says, would you like to upgrade? So you guys are going to be just kind of like Apple or Microsoft or software programs. I will automatically grandfather you into all the uploads as we add more modules. Setting up a signature page is just an opportunity for you to put a disclaimer in. You just type it in, compliments, of your network. You can put in a disclaimer. You can put in your clinic name. You can put in whatever you want, and that'll print out on the bottom of the report that you email or that you print out. Okay, the setup we did. The cloud services we're integrating, and soon the beta testing is almost done. That you'll be able to get a file, click cloud services, upload, then it downloads the reports, then reviewed, sent back to you to the same service. It's an a la carte setup. We've talked about it before, and I think that the charge is $25. Sorry, they're $25 a report. There's no obligation. It's just available for people that don't want to learn HRV language or use it in the beginning to add to the patient chart. It's really just something that we talk about. The ECG module and insulating the driver and reinstalling the driver. Sometimes, and I'm not sure why this, but in PC environments, sometimes the drivers, when you boot your system up. Sometimes the drivers don't always get in. If for some reason your system's not running, you can just click on installing driver or call our customer service. People will walk you through whatever you need to do to get it integrated. This is for you and anybody in your network. And then the user manual is already installed in the program. So I've sent you a separate copy of it, but in case it's 59 pages, it's a PDF file, but if you guys want to look through that, you can, gives you a lot of details as to, how to set it up and how to work it and all that stuff. Okay, so that's kind of like the housekeeping piece. Are we all good on this?
Yeah.
Okay, I know I'm speaking a little fast, but again, this will be recorded so you guys can reflect back on it later time. All right, so now you've run successful scans, but for the people that are learning for the first time, some housekeeping pieces there. Okay, so these are the sensors. Is that better?
Yeah.
Okay. So the red clip goes on your right wrist, the yellow goes on your left. You want the metal tape or the sensor to be located somewhere around your pulse center right in here. So we just set it up like that. And the left on the yellow. I like using, you can either use the same kind of gel that they use in ultrasounds, or I just use a little water that I put in a good salt, like a saline solution I created. You just spritz the wrist and then have the patient run the wrist together. That'll make a little better contact. Sometimes, the oil on the skin can make the read, sometimes it can make it a little cloudy. Okay, so now they're set up like this. It's a super great idea that you don't twist these wires around, so they have a tendency, even when you're storing them, they'll start to get a little twisted like that. If they're like this, then even though these wires are isolated, because the sensors are so sensitive, you might get an extra amount of artifacts. An artifact is basically a data point that's outside what the program considers to be a normal cardiac rhythm for that patient or that scan. And we'll go back to the screen and show you what that looks like in a minute. So keep them untwisted, lube up a little bit, make sure that the leads have good contact, and then you're pretty much ready to go. This hooks into a USB port, and once you do that, you get a green light on the software. So we'll just go through a quick setup for the people that, again, I'm switching my wrist, making a good contact, right lead, left read, and then we're ready to go. So I'm clicking on, after I've installed the patient, I've got 49 scans on me on this database, so I'm just gonna hit start button, and we're good to go. Now, if I lose my contact, look what my ECG looks like. So that's a not good one. Notice the artifacts that are coming up here. Now I've got my contact again. So this part right here where it says tuning and adjusting, that's the AI, artificial intelligence part of the program that's trying to get an understanding of what Robbie's normal heart rhythm would look like. And it's usually about 20 or 30 seconds. If you want the patient to be sitting comfortably, generally they should be kind of in a chair or lying down, whatever serves the clinic. And you don't want their legs crossed. You just want them sitting in a comfortable position. If they start moving around like I'm doing now, you're going to start seeing more artifacts occurring in the screen. So that's the more artifacts, the less reliable the read. And we'll go through that in a minute or so. Because you guys have experienced this, you'll notice that, and also you don't want the patient to be talking. The clinician can be talking to the patient, but it's best if the patient is quiet. Generally, it's a 4.5 to 5 minute scan. So you want you want it to be a quiet time. When we get about a third of the way in, you notice my panels are start lighting up now. And now you're getting a real-time read on me. So we've done interventions, a kind of an intervention in the middle of a scan, and you can see exactly how quickly the body can respond to that intervention. Like we've got a breathing device that we use, and serendipitously we discovered that you can actually do a real-time, see how that intervention works. You guys are more structurally related, so I'm not sure if that's appropriate for you. But if you do a baseline, then you do your adjustment or you use your technology based on what you think would be the appropriate time frame. So why I say that, if it's energetic, it might be right away within a minute or two after you do your baseline that you can get to the second scan. If it's nutritional, you might tell them to come back a week from now. If it's structural, it might be you do the adjustment or you do use your technology, and then you might, and you get a feel for this within your clinic, within your protocols. What's the appropriate time to do the second scan that's going to show a real result? So fool around with that. Certainly, I can work with you once I get a better understanding of your technology and so forth. So this is the basis of kind of how the scan runs. I won't waste any more time doing my scan right now. I'll flip to some of the ones that we've done historically, so you can get a feel for how the software, how robust the software is. So I'm about halfway done. On top here is my resting heart rate, and the RR, or the intervals, the amount of actual data points that I'm getting. This is a print function. This is your help mode, but mostly it ties back into the user guide. Okay, so we're going to stop my scan right now. We got a feel for that, and now I'm just going to reflect on some of the historicals, so you get a nice idea. I sent you a reference guide 1.2 that gives you a really good definition of each of the tension index, the definition, and in some cases exactly what the applied health science is behind that. And so you need a second scan in order to do a comparative. So earlier today, I did it at close to 9 o'clock. I was stressed out, and I did a scan on myself, and sure enough, the normal range should be 10 to 100, and I was 143. Now, behind each of the screens is a quick reference guide, and so you already know the ranges here that are based on the Cardiac Association's readout. This is the universal ranges that are given by the Cardiac Association that everybody in the world uses. And then what we've done is we've color-coded, so if it's green, it's good, within the range. If it's yellow, it's just outside the range. And then if it's red, then it's indicating that it's deeper outside the range. So, normal, semi-abnormal, and then abnormal. But you can have a reference guide here so that in each screen you can kind of take a look at what should be considered really good read and what isn't such a good read. So based on that, you can look at the panel and then easily ascertain where that patient is sitting if you don't already get it from the numerical piece. Okay, so further going down the road here, each of these different panels, they measure different things. And there's a correlation between tension index and total power. And so that's the next read here. So if I have I guess we're going to flip to Stephen now, because with Stephen's permission, I hope he's on. He's got it's a good way for us to take a look at this. Okay, so I'm going to go back to Stephen when we first started with him, and so back in December, and then we're going to see like a more recent scan on him. All right. So here he had slight tension. Let me see if this one's worse. No. Okay. Okay, just outside the norm. Now we do intervention, and if his tension or stress index is up, then we expect his power to be down. So here his tension is 101 and his power is 1963 red because it's outside the 2385 low side of the norm. Okay? Comparatively, on this one, his tension is really low or his stress is down. So if your body stress is down, your body is using less resources to try to create homeostasis, is the way that the HRV works. So if your tension is low, you have more power. And sure enough, when we look at his power read, he's outside the norm. Again, it's red because the high end is 4545, and he's at 10,000. So, I mean, you know, this is interesting because the comparison of when we first started with Stephen and where he is today is really remarkable. Okay. So a scattergram, basically, the more scattered the picture, like the densely populated here and here, it is the less impressive. Again, it's back to your vagus nerve and sympathetic system because we're tapping into your autonomic nervous system. So we're trying to identify when you're moving people into parasympathetic, and most people these days are sympathetic dominant. And so you can actually see when you do a modality that their bodies are shifting, and then once they're in more parasympathetic mode, if whatever modalities you to continue to do in clinic, their bodies are going to be much better receiving because they're generally calmer. Okay. All right. So moving to the next one. Here we've got a read on your sympathetic system and your parasympathetic system. So, and again, total power, which are significant numbers, and your vegetative balance, and then something we created called the vitality index. And so, again, these indices are ones that you can use as markers for progress as you guys are employing your technology over the life of the patient when they're with you. And so what's beautiful about this is that the more scans you have, the more comparatives you have. So I can keep going back and say, wow, I did this intervention on this day, or there's the baseline. You know, half hour later, I did that intervention, and I can show immediately how quickly Stephen's, you know, or the patient's body has responded.
So let me ask you, with more power on the right, it shows he's much higher parasympathetic. How do you describe to the patient that that's good? To me, that would seem not good.
Well, it depends on the individual and what intervention you did. Okay, so with my technology, you know, I have them in my sauna and I want them to calm down. And so if you looked at my scans before and after the sauna, I'll move into parasympathetic and my power will improve, but nothing like Stephen. I mean, it's not off the chart. He's you know, I picked him out because he's an anomaly, but he'd be coming under that extreme client or patient profile. And so sometimes you see a very subtle shift into parasympathetic, and sometimes it's really dramatic. So Jason, we're using technology now that's called harmonization technology that you put on cell chips and you put on cell phones or laptops, or you can remediate wireless networks. And so here we're not adjusting anything on power all that much, like in an intervention or structural change. But the harmonizing technology, the improvement in just moving into the calm state from excited state into parasympathetic was dramatic. It can improve by 30, 40, 50%. So we know. And then there's other clients I have that are compounders making CBD formulations, and they're testing themselves, and they'll do a baseline, take the supplement, and they're going to try to calm the body down or get them in, you know, pre-sleep mode or out of pain. And so they're able to use this technology to see if their formulations are giving them the results they're looking for and how to tweak the formulation to get to what they want. So again, they're indices, and what we're doing is we're coloring the fabric of the patient. And the more snapshots we have, the better we can indicate how the technology is working and how their overall profile looks as you move down the timeline for them. Here's another expression of power. Okay, so here, just as a reference point, we want it to look like that. Obviously, when Stephen's scoring 100%, he's going to be more like that because he is more like that. But my scores are going to be something more like this or like that, which are generally average, you know? And then the older the person is, and in less health, or if they really need support, health science support, the quicker the changes and the body interprets that. So this is just another way for you to look at the way that the HRV works. Again, the nomenclature, with the definition of neurohormonal regulation, I've defined in the reference guide. But I'm going to pull out, so you guys can study that. It's real simple. But these are things that I just want to show you little nuances. So here is energy in and energy out. Somebody that's in burnout mode, if they put a lot of energy in and they have low energy out, they're basically at an energy deficit. And so this is burnout mode. This is what I look like. Now this is what you want to see in someone in health. Notice how the building blocks look. So the bigger the Lego and the stronger the base and the less peaky the base, the better the profile. So this is really a terrific profile here, where something like this one obviously is not quite as nice. But look at his power in, 198 in, 238 out. This guy, he is a power generator. I mean, this is a very efficient body system, in terms of energetics and power. So that's a great one to look at, like easily look at. But notice that, it's red, it's outside the norm. So again, Stephen is an extraordinary read, but when you see people in burnout mode, then you can appropriately address, what they might need either in supplementation or other things that you guys know just from your own skill sets that might help them, readjust their power, their body energy systems. Okay, so here's the brain, and here we have a perfect score. I mean, that's the best brain that you'd ever want to see is what Stephen's seeing here. And really what we're looking for there are different kind of stress related stuff. I'll just look at other scans for Steve. Okay, I'll show you some of mine because I'm a little bit more stressed out. But here he's got yellows and oranges. If they're browns and deep reds, this suggests a few things. One, that the brain is stressed out. Secondly, that there may be less interaction between left and right lobes or coherence. And so here's a real healthy brain. And once we look at the next slide, you'll see a real healthy spine. So the brain is getting good information, and you guys being structurally minded, you know how important it is to have that alignment. So you can have a healthy brain, but if there's an impingement in the neck and the information is not getting down the spine, then their bodies aren't operating properly. So you know how to adjust my language so it fits into your skill sets. But so here Stephen is, whatever's going on for him, he was in repair mode. Almost all of his energy was being put into delta. And once he did his interventions, you can see now he's got, a pretty high beta. So that is sympathetic mode. So he's still anxious and fight and flight, but he's got a little bit more alpha and theta. He's more balanced here than obviously he was here. I'll show some other comparatives in a few minutes so you can get a better feel for it other than just Stephen, which is, I'm showing you kind of the night and day program, but you can get a feel for it from here. Here's his spine. So here you see he's got some areas that are sticky, some that are okay, healthy. Brain is a little stressed, as we saw before, and here's the perfect, this is like the best you could see. He's 100% everywhere. Really great. This is probably the most favorite screen that people like to look at. The patient's at 51 years of age. Here, his biological age is 2 years younger at 49. But with the intervention, he's 21 years younger at age 30. So if you're doing things in your profile, your program, that have anti-aging elements to it, there's going to be some great great information here. So you get a patient that's in bad shape, they might be biologically older than their physical age. And then you do an intervention, all of a sudden they go from 10 years older to 10 years under, right? So from a patient compliance standpoint, with the doctors that we're working with, they report back that their compliance is up between 75 and 80% once the patients start getting the scorecard, because sometimes you can do an adjustment, but it won't hold. And they need to get a few more treatments. I don't really know the extent of your program, but let's say it's your success ratio is that after 10 treatments over a certain period of time, you're getting a sustainable result. And so you can keep the patient compliant because each time they come in, they do a scan, and you can see the incremental changes, and then you can see the maintenance dose, and then you can look at them, after a month, after 3 months, after 6 months, and show that whether they need more adjustments or back on the profile, or if it's holding and they're on maintenance doses or whatever, again, is appropriate. But having, like, if I came home with my report card and I said to my wife, I just spent, $400 with my practitioner, and I could show my wife exactly how my body is taking the adjustments or the protocol, showing that net change, it really makes a difference on the family basis and people knowing that they're spending their money wisely. Okay? So these are more of the global screens. And so this is a total number. So you can I can say, wow, Stephen, you came in, we gave you your total power, or your total score this is the complex score. And that also is the same one that you see here. So this is the panel that's operating while it's real time. And then we're back over here and we can see it again. So we're comparing, the intervention and say, man, your power went from 47% to 100. Again, this is an extraordinary read. But you could go from 47 to 60 or to 90 or to 80, and then you're really showing, and it does show you your net change, which is, dramatic. Again, another expression. So the same screens we saw on the first panel right here, we're now seeing here in pie shapes. So of course, the bigger the pie shapes are filled, the better the overall profile. Someone that is way under might look like that. But these are real graphic ways for you to see what areas of the body show improvement, as well as where the deficits are. This guy shows you, these are just the timestamps on when you're doing your different scans. These are your biorhythms. So, knowing that the person has, like in this case, Stephen, 6 a.m., 10 a.m., and 3 p.m., and 9 p.m. are his low ebbs. Okay? So you wouldn't want to be, maybe doing your power trainings during that period, or your power meetings where you have choices when to do at the high ends where you're the strongest. This is your aura. Again, another derivation. Behind here it tells you all about what it means. That whether you might want to gloss over this one, but it does show you the overall. It correlates to your overall complex. The ones that I like that are a little bit more unique are the chakras. And here again, you can click on what the definitions of each of the chakras are based on Ayurvedic, the Ayurvedic approach, and what they tie out to. But mostly you can see where there are deficits, and you can see the change once you come into balance. And there's an extra component here where, let's say on this profile, we want to improve the chakra balance. You can click on the little tone over here and export a WAMA file or an MP3 file. Again, you download it to wherever you want to put it. It saves the file. You can load that up to onto your PC or onto your iPad or whatever, and then you can have these healing tones that will balance your chakras through the day. And it is unique to the patient. So based on their scan, then you can do the correlating tone, send them home with that tone, tell them listen to it all day until their next meeting with you, and they'll have that in addition to the other information that you can give them. Here is the These are the energy meridians, the major energy meridians by the acupuncture. So again, here are the definitions of the meridians. So let's go onto this panel here. So we had a low score. Anything under 50% is, I would consider a low score. So all of these are low. Again, they're yellow. If they were really bad, they would be red. And of course, if they're good, like on this guy, they're green. So, here, you can see, based on if you look at the composite, here you saw that he had structural challenges, right? And now you're seeing where those structural challenges are influencing the energy meridian. So of course we want scores like that. Now, all of these panels are the panels that get printed out. Everything but this last page. If you just hit the print button, it will print out all of these reports. The last page is the numerical score. If you want to print that, you have to hit that guy right here. If you want to export that, you hit that guy right there. And of course, this is the index screen or the info screen that tells you what each of these are. Again, they're color-coded. So the greens are in healthy ranges, the yellows are in, just outside the range, and the reds are the ones that need a little bit of work. So that kind of glosses you through basically how the program operates. And then what I can do is just bring you back to Robbie, and now I'll show you some of my stuff, better and for worse things.
So, Robbie, we are we want to utilize this for potential customers as a screening when they come in. Put them through the 5-minute test and say, okay, for instance, you're overtraining. We have services that can help you recover faster. We don't want to bombard them with too much information. So which resources or graphs would be the top 2 or 3 that we should focus on in that case when we first come across somebody to show them that our services can help them?
Got it. So the ones that are significant would be this first screen, which would be the tension index. And then the second one, which would be the total power number, which also correlates to vitality, the vitality index down here. Okay?
Okay.
And then I would definitely throw in the biological age one, because I think that's an important one. So here I'm 25 years younger. So that would be something that, it's sort of academic, but I think that it's important for people to see that, the stuff that you're doing, Jason, really has an impact on their overall anti-aging profile.
Okay.
These other ones are just another, I like the energy in and out, because once you do your adjustment, if you start moving them towards an energy positive versus deficit, then you're going to actually see that they've moved from burnout mode, as most people are these days, when they're in fight and flight too long or stuck in parasympathetic dominant. Then when you start adjusting their power, then you know that they've got body resources that'll help them fight off disease, pathogens, sickness, the bodily, healing. And for optimal health people, that is a key number. So those were the screens that I really would focus on. The number 1 screen. The scattergram is another example of it, but I would just look at the tension. I'd look at the second screen, total power. You might gloss over the shift from sympathetic to parasympathetic. The vitality index is going to be a good one to just show overall strength, as would on the main panel this complex state, because that's kind of the overall score. So when you do before and afters, when you can show a marked difference in overall scoring, because the overall score is really taking into account everything, right? So that would be an important one to look at, the complex. And you can find the complex score down here, total health, right?
Do you have a workaround or a fix for the issue we've been having with connectivity?
So tell me describe that to me a little bit. please.
I'd say on 25% of the scans, it says quit moving, the little red message, and they're completely calm, eyes closed, quiet room, and we can't get a measurement. Like Nate, who's here, he has relatively low blood pressure, and we think that might be a common denominator. Is there a way to adjust the sensitivity of the reception of the clips? Because it's very frustrating, and patients look at you like you're an idiot because you're putting them on something that doesn't work, and it happens a lot.
Okay, so find a willing guinea pig that reads that way, and then besides using a gel or using the saline solution, try adjusting. People that have low blood pressure or have arrhythmias will not read well, okay? So you could have the patient drink, just prophylactically, have them drink a healthy glass of water, a few minutes. I don't know how your intake process is, but let's say you do paperwork. When they come in, they sit down, you do paperwork to sign up, and part of the intake is doing an HRV. I'd have them drink 8 to 10 ounces of water, so you know that they're well cellular hydrated, okay? And so if they've got low blood pressure, then it's likely to give them a little bit more fluid. You're going to improve the reading. For people that are sometimes on a Doppler, they'll have very low pulse rate in one side of their arms for whatever reason. Maybe if they're type 2 diabetic, they may have challenges with blood flow. So you can try going right wrist to left ankle, and vice versa, or just doing ankles. So that's another area that you can get a pulse from.
Would you put the sensor on where below the malleoli and the medial ankle, or where?
Exactly, right. So basically like right here.
We've been using ultrasound gel, and it's kind of getting caked on there, so we may need to just buy saline solution and use the spritz bottle, because I think
Yeah,
thick.
I think that might be a better solution for you, or better answer. I made it myself. I just put Himalayan salt in some distilled water or good filtered water, and I'm good to go.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's just if it reads, it reads. If it doesn't, and it happens, how often would you say, like 20-30%? Yeah, so, and if it's not a common thing, I don't know if something with deleting the software and reloading it, if there's other issues, ways to fix it, or.
Well, Jason, let's say the same. What I usually do is, if I can't get a read on you, I'll take a read on me. If it's reading on me and it's not reading on you, then I know it's not really the programming challenge. Then it's more what's going on between the program and you. What's happening with you. What I'd like to do, if you can give me some point person on your staff that is experiencing that, we can do a case by case to try to zero in on I have a clinic in Ocala, and they just recently installed an ozone device in the treatment room, and it was giving off high levels of electromagnetic field, and it completely messed up their scans. They couldn't quite figure out it was just like what you were describing. So if you're getting 75% of the time you're getting good scans, and you have a common place where you're doing it, then most probably the environment that you're working in is right. So I'd like to just, if we can lock down some of those variables and focus it on it being something between the patient profile and the software, then let's focus on what that patient profile is.
So if it's working most of the time, it's not the type of laptop or tablet or whatever we're using. If it's working most of the time, that wouldn't be an issue. It's just the connection and that individual.
Yeah. And the other thing I think, well, maybe Stephen already mentioned it to you, but on PCs, we run it on the DC side. If you're getting a very rough looking ECG, it's usually because that little power supply that plugs into the wall that drives the PC, it's giving out high levels of dirty electricity. And so the scanning electrodes,
we don't keep it plugged in when we do the scan.
Okay. Yeah, that's the best, most efficient way is to use it on the DC battery of the PC. Exactly.
Do you think the PEMF messes with it?
Totally.
I'm wondering, Jason, in that room,
Not on though when we're doing it.
but like if somebody had just been on it.
I think it's only working when it's actually on.
Well, I just meant like if somebody had laid on it and put it out there in the room, basically, and then even if it was still off, I don't know.
No, if it's running, then you might get from the EMF side of the pulsing, you might get.
I just meant not running.
If it's not running,
But it's in that same little tiny room, so it's got to go somewhere.
no, I mean the field's clear after you run your session on the PEMF device. So, and the body will hold some of that EMF energy, but that might read in the scan, but it won't cause a non-read. You know what I mean?
So there could be other things plugged into the wall. As long as they're not attached to the patient, it shouldn't affect it.
Correct.
I think the user's manual, and I didn't realize hitting that little info button can give you the like the cheat sheet as well. So that's helpful. So I think and then I wanted to narrow down to what should we focus on if we're doing a briefer review, and I think you answered those questions.